We all know how expensive new road bikes are these days, don't we? Even mid-range bikes cost a fortune compared to a few years ago. So, do you have to spend big money to get big performance? To find out, I set myself a budget of just £500 to try and find myself a performance road bike that doesn't blow the budget. And this is what I bought, a Specialized Tarmac that cost me £400. 400 quid, people. A bargain. Really happy with that. Well under budget. Pretty hard to buy a Tarmac for £400, it turns out as well. There's definitely a specialized tax. They hold their price really well. So I'm pretty happy to find this. And no, before you ask, it's not stolen. I met the chap who sold a bike in a McDonald's car park of all places. And he seemed a really nice chap and was really into cycling, but is keen to move this on and buy a gravel bike, which is very popular these days, which allowed me to buy this for an absolute steal. So the plan for today is to go for a ride and see how it performs and do a series of challenges. So climbing, descending, flat speed, and I'll mark it out of 10 compared to a modern day road bike. We'll do a visual inspection as well, see whether it's a load of crock or not. But first, let me explain why I bought a Tarmac. Well, partly because I've never actually owned one, despite riding every one made going right back to the original almost, well, over 20 years ago as a bike journey. And because the Tarmac these days is a very popular bike around the world. But it wasn't always that way. When I started as a bike journey over 20 years ago, the early Tarmacs weren't that popular or that desirable at all, compared to more established brands from Italian companies and elsewhere. But in the years since, they've become very popular, partly through very aggressive, progressive frame design, and also sponsoring some of the best teams in the world tour. And they have won a bunch of road races at all levels, and that has cemented the Tarmac as a very popular road bike. And the SL8, the current one of the best race bikes on the market right now, super lightweight and super aero. But this one, not super lightweight and not super aero at all. So let me give you a closer look at my £400 Tarmac and see how bad, hopefully, it isn't. So this SL4 comp was launched in 2015 and the customer bought it in 2016, and it retailed back then for £2,000, which for a carbon framed Ultegra 11-speed bike seems like a bargain compared to today's prices. So pretty good, quite a lot of depreciation though. But the frame is an SL4 generation, so the 4th generation Tarmac, and first debuted in 2011. So the design of the frame is actually quite old. Doesn't look that bad though. And when the bike came out in 2015, the SL5 came out, which had a similar look, but was lighter, stiffer and better, the usual jazz. And I've always loved this generation of Tarmac because we have no horrible drop rear stays. They are conventional stays that go right up to the top tube. And another feature I love on this generation is that bowed, swooping top tube. I've always loved that curve. I think that's always looked fantastic on a Tarmac, and something they sadly lost with the SL6, and a key feature of a Tarmac for many years. So the bike does look dated because we have no aero, we have no integration. We have internal routing in the down tube here, but it's all external around there with a conventional handlebar and stem, which is cool. And we have a non-aero round 27.2mm seat post with an external seat clamp there. And then up front we have a super fat tapered head tube. I think they call that a Cobra head tube. Specialized do like the marketing jargon, don't they? And then a massive fat oversized down tube, which is not aerodynamic in the slightest, but does reassure that frame should have plenty of stiffness. And then the seat tube is tapered as well, so quite skinny and obviously round up top, and then square profiled down into the bottom bracket, which on the bike is a BB30, because back then BB30 was popular, but we have a Praxis threaded crankset on here. Hopefully there's no creaking or squeaking from that. So super fat down tube, seat tube, big oversized chain stays as well, and then semi-internal routing through the top tube there from the rear brake and out of the top tube, and then the other cables are into the down tube there. So £2,000 bike, Shimano Ultegra 11-speed mechanical group set with a Praxis chain set. The gearing range shows the age of the bike, so 5236 semi-compact and a 1128. And it looks, I mean, that rear mech has had a few bashes and scrapes and stuff. Doesn't look terrible, it's seen worse. And the chain has a bit of rust on it as well. And it feels a bit grindy as well. But the cassette, the teeth are looking okay. And the chain set, I mean, there's obvious wear, especially that inner one. A bit of crust building on those teeth, but it doesn't look terrible. And the frame itself, there's a scratch on the top tube, I've noticed, quite a gouge, not terrible, and one just there. But the rest of it looks clean. It's not had a wash in a while, but a good clean up. I reckon the frame will be okay. Might be able to touch it up with some paint, some nail varnish, perhaps. Then the wheels on the bike are Fulcrum racing wheels, and they have some sort of, oh, what's that? Some like horrible gunk on there. So not amazing wheels, and the tyres, you can just about see a Specialized Turbo Pro grip-on tyre, and they are 23mm wide. 23, guys, that is so narrow, and that really dates the bike. And the tyres are cracked really badly on there, and the tyres are cracked right across the surface. So yeah, they need replacing. They need going in the bin. And the rear tyre has been replaced with Schwalbe Durano tyre. So I guess he wore that out and put a new tyre on, which doesn't look so bad actually. There's a lot of visible sort of brake dirt on the rims, and the rims have a slight concave on them, but not terrible. A lot of crust and sweat and salt around the brake calipers, but I think a good clean and it should be okay. They all seem to work so far, but we'll see how it is on the open road. And the seat post is, I'm not sure the carbon, I think it's carbon fibre with an old body geometry toupe saddle, which back in the day were a popular saddle. I was a real big fan, but times have changed. So it doesn't look terrible, does it? Needs a bit of a clean, but before that I'll go for a ride and see how it performs straight, well, not out of the box, but you know what I mean. I put the bike on the scales just now with no pedals, which is pretty light. So I'm gonna get changed and join me out on the open road, and we'll do a series of challenges on my £400 tarmac. Right, okay, just about to hit the road. Got some pedals on the bike, my trusty Wahoo PowerLink power meter pedals. And I put an Insta360 X4 360 camera up front to record the action. Just need to lube the chain. Going for a Silka Synergetic just because the chain is pretty ropey. It probably needs a deep clean. It might even be worn, so I'll check that when I get home for the next episode and see if the chain and cassette need replacing. Right, here we go. Just a quick system check. The gears appear to work okay. Up and down the cassette, front derailleur works okay. Brakes, air brakes work okay actually. So far, they're working okay. One thing I forgot to do is to check the skewers on the front wheel done up. A bit of a paranoia here. Oh, that's really loose, oh my goodness me. Why didn't I check that earlier? It's a bit of a skill, isn't it? Getting the quick releases done up just right. And the rear one, okay. I can't budge that. So that's tight. Right, on with the test. Before we do some climbing and descending, let's ride on the flat and give me a chance to get used to the bike. When I reviewed it back in 2015, I was very impressed with the bike, as reading a review the other day reminded me. And it still rides really well. Like straight away, the geometry feels good, the fit is fantastic. Size 56, the same stack and reach as Specialized used for years and years. The stem is too high though, way too many spaces, so it needs slamming. But you know, nice handlebar shape, and the toupe saddle feels good. The only real reminder of how old the bike is are the tall gears and the super skinny tyres. I can't believe 23s were that standard back then, but they were. We didn't know any better, but now we do, thankfully. So pretty happy with the bike on the flats. Doesn't have the same speed as a modern aero bike, but I think a big chunk of that is the wheels. So giving it maybe a 5 out of 10 for that lack of speed and the skinny tyres not giving that smooth ride I want from a road bike these days. So good start, pretty strong start considering it cost me 400 quid. So let's do some descending. Okay, descending challenge, here we go. Check the brakes. Yes, brakes work. Double check. Yes, it definitely still work. Here we go. Through the first corner. I made it. It's out of the corner. I'm a bit worried about that front tyre. And straight away, there's a lot of feedback through the bike, through the contact points. 23mm wide tyres. What were we thinking back then? Yeah, they feel really skinny, really narrow. And the comfort and compliance is definitely not in the same league as the latest SL8 tarmac or any other modern bike. Really an area where the bike shows its age really well, or badly, should I say. Let the brakes go a bit more. Move it around. The geometry is spot on. They haven't really changed the geometry in all 20 years, really. So it's still, the steering feels good. It feels very light, actually. The whole bike does feel very light. It moves around nicely. What a bike for 400 quid. I'm really impressed. It goes, it stops, the gears work. I think some new tyres and maybe some fancier wheels. That'd be spot on, really. A lovely day to be out on the bike, really. And the brakes don't feel too bad, actually. There's quite a bit of modulation at the bike point. A bit more grabby than disc brakes. Kind of, there's nothing, then there's something, then there's lots of it. Oh, what's that? Oh, the front brake is squealing. You hear that? Oh dear. Oh, I didn't think rim brakes made any noise. What's that? Oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, rims. They get hot. There's a bit of curving, so they are wearing out. There's good life on the pads left yet, and they're probably original. This should be closed, shouldn't it, really? Oh, no, I can't. Okay, that needs setting up properly. So, got down the first hill, okay. The front brake is making an alarming sound when really pulling the brake hard. But apart from that, it went down the hill okay, and the brakes, apart from the noise, worked okay. So I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for descending performance so far. Right, what goes down must go up. Let's see how it climbs. So on the scales, it's just under 8 kilos with no pedals, which is pretty damn good, actually. I mean, it's only a comp model, not a high-end S-Works, and the frame is heavier than an S-Works frame, probably over 1 kilo. But yeah, not heavy considering the price point back in 2016, or even compared to modern bikes. And I was straight into my lowest gear, a 36/28, 11/28. I remember when they were big cassettes, now they're small cassettes. So yeah, I'm in my lowest gear. I'm pushing quite hard already. Apart from that though, it feels okay. There's a bit of grinding, crunching coming from the drivetrain. Not sure if it's a bottom bracket or chain or drivetrain. So I might have to get a pro mechanic to give it a once over, see what sort of state it's really in. And I've got BB30. I'm not sure if that Praxis chainset can be replaced. The nice put a Shimano Ultegra on there. I could do a compact really. 5034 would be nice. There's definitely some flex from the wheels. And I've got a big stack of spacers under the stem, which is not ideal. And when you're really giving it a lot, there's quite a bit of kind of flex twist going on. I mean, they're very cheap wheels. They're not amazing quality. It definitely has a, dare I say, a lightness to it. And that steering is just so fast. It moves around nicely. I'm really surprised actually. Onto a steeper section of the climb and out of the saddle, ignoring the noises. It feels good, plenty of stiffness, clearly from the frame and the bottom bracket. No flex down there at all really. It's not the stiffest bike I've ever ridden up a hill. But I do think the wheels have a large part to play there. So a nice wheel upgrade would be a nice thing to do. But without splitting hairs, yeah, climbing well. Okay, climbing challenge done. Got a bit of a sweat on. The bike does climb okay actually, and I would give it out of 10 a good 6.5. Only the wheels and a bit of flex from the wheels really hold it down. But yeah, definitely has the potential to climb even faster with a few choice upgrades. It's so easy to get wrapped up in all these improvements and marginal gains and more stiffness and more aero and less weight, which is fantastic. It's how products evolve and get better, whether bikes, cars, phones, computers, you name it. But ignoring all that, putting it to one side, on its own, this bike does ride very well. It's light, stiff, comfort is okay, not amazing, but you know, it's not beating me up here. It's not rattling my fillings, as they say. Gears work. When I press the button, the front mech does need some trimming though. Okay, it needs a bit of setup, but it needs some TLC. That's what it needs. It needs some love. Let's get Scott or Jim on the case. Yeah, on its own, it rides very well, especially considering the fact it cost me £400. So there we go, really, really happy. Couldn't be any happier with my 400 quid Specialized Tarmac. I finally own a Tarmac after never owning one. So there we go. And shows what you can buy for not a lot of cash if you don't want to buy a new bike and you're happy searching eBay and Facebook Marketplace and other places for a second-hand bike. And if you're careful and smart, you can pick up a bargain. And I reckon with some new tyres and some other new parts, I could have 500 quid done for a lovely bike, which is a lot cheaper than 5 grand or 10 grand or 15 grand that modern road bikes are costing these days. But this isn't the end of this Tarmac episode. I have plans, I have desires to upgrade the bike. I fancy some deep section carbon wheels, some fancy tyres, maybe an aero handlebar stem, and see how much performance I can get. So next time I'm going to benchmark it as it is compared to a top of the range race bike with an aero sensor, no less, and then see how much performance I can get while staying on a low budget. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to see that by hitting that button down below and on screen right now. And if you want to see a video on the new Tarmac SL8, the brand spanking new one, then watch a video right up here. But that's all today. I'm off for a nice ride on my Tarmac. I might get some cake. I'll see you again very soon.